Are you yearning to wake up each morning and ignite a new meaning and purpose in life and beyond? Welcome, everyone. I'm Michael McGinnis, an award-winning author, speaker, and educator on human potential, and your host on You Can Do It, Inspiring Growth, Igniting Potential. Life presents us with challenges that serve as catalysts for growth. The pivotal question is, how do we respond to these challenges, or better yet, opportunities? Do we adopt a victim mindset or rise to become victors? Our goal here is to guide and inspire you to master the most amazing journey you have, your life. You Can Do It starts now. Hey everybody, Michael McGinnis here with You Can Do It. Bear with me today, I've got a cold, so I'll probably have to sneak in a drink here and there. In any case, today is about incredible tools. And these tools really are to come at a perfect time because we're talking about achieving our full potential. And what better time than here we are in the midst of the Olympics, where here are these hundreds of thousands of people who have dedicated their focus and time and effort to being the top of the world in these particular events, achieving their full potential in these events. Well, there are tools and techniques that help them to achieve it as well as we can use ourselves. And they're going to be covering today visualization, meditation, and law of attraction, right? What a combination of tools, but when you come to understand them, and most importantly, put them into practice, they're amazing. So visualization. Techniques involve creating a mental image or scenario in which you see yourself performing a task or skill in your mind, right? In your mind. This practice can enhance actual performance by improving focus, confidence, and the execution of physical skills. Well, one of the things in psychology today they mention, and I'm going to give a little story of my own. It says here, despite the great case for getting off our duffs, there are some amazing, cool, and effective practices you can do right from the comfort of your own recliner. Hey, sounds great already. For instance, you could practice your golf swing, work out your muscles, prepare to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, hone your chest skills, practice for tomorrow's surgery, or you can even prepare for your best life. Well, that's it for us, right? This is the relationship here is to our personal growth, where we're looking to strive to change our behaviors. That's the power of this tool. Well, I learned that it was first in my own experience of becoming an EMT, an emergency medical technician, a volunteer on ambulance, arriving at tough scenario scenes, accidents, diseases, you name it, we were there, right? And so they say here is that if athletes and chess players can do it, we can do it too, right? So my particular case, as I was preparing for, and these were some incredible scenarios of which you arrived to, and you've got to be prepared for you never know what, right? The beeper would go off, and you had responded to get to the ambulance, from the ambulance to the scene, and then with a near 30-minute trip to the hospital, it was up to us. We were in life-saving mode. So, of course, we wanted to do it right. Well, the training was extensive, as you can imagine. And we went over all these possible scenarios. And then at the end of each evening, we'd actually go into visualization, a practice of this where we would close our eyes and they would read off the scenario that we were experiencing in great detail with all the five senses and what we do, the chaos at the scene, the screaming parents, and who knows what, the scene, the blood in some scenarios. And we'd have to be able to respond to that. Well, we would practice this over and over and over again. It sort of become a bore after a while. As is, oh my God, we got to go through this again. Well, now let's zoom ahead as my first night live on ambulance. There I was. It was me on call. And sure enough, I get a call, 33-year-old not breathing. So arriving to a scene, my mind is spinning a million miles an hour, starting to think of every possible scenario. Mostly, can I do this? Can I really do this? This is my first call. All of these thoughts were going across my mind. Well, I arrived at the scene, and that, of course, was one of the scenarios we practiced. And sure enough, I went into automatic, which is the beautiful benefit of visualization. And immediately I knew what to do and how to do that. I went in, and sure enough, there was the screaming spouse, of the male not breathing and the kids screaming. And I said what I had to say, and then I immediately moved to the patient and started to do the defibrillation and getting prepared for the trip to the hospital, right? All within a short period of time. And it all happened just like clockwork, just like we had learned it to be, the power of visualization. Well, I had a second case where I was at the Lake Placid, upstate New York Olympic Training Center. It's the Winter Olympic Training Center for a lot of the downhill skiing, the toboggans, I think they're called, and it was amazing experience. I actually got a chance to actually go on some of the equipment there, which was incredible. But in any case, is they state here is that if athletes and chess players use this technique to enhance performance, which is what they do, and particularly you hear it a lot about, like at the Olympics, as part of the training. Well, what I had witnessed there was sure enough, they were there for the downhill skiers, and downhill skiers were doing all of these physical from weightlifting. Then they moved into all of these contraptions where they would learn and be able to do the different jumps that they needed to do, the turns that they needed to do. And then they went into a room, a dark room, which they had to put a mask over their eyes. And it was here that they would do the visualization of their next event over and over and over again. Well, now as sports has turned into tenths to thousandths of a second difference between the first place and second place and third place, that it's no wonder that they look to enhance to be able their performance in every way possible. Well, this way has been touted as a fantastic way to really help prepare. Why? Because the mind and brain itself doesn't know the difference between real and perceived. So as you're doing it and perceiving this thing, the brain is taking it in. It's taking it in, it's storing it, and have you practicing it. So it's coming to know that experience. So by the time the real event takes place, your brain says, oh, we've been here before. And the hope is you're able to go on automatic and just allow that to be able to just take place. Well, that's what I learned there. And sure enough, what I was seeing there was how important visualization really was. Well, there was a third story here too. And, by using visualization, it's used to establish a highly specific goal. So, of course, that could be, whatever you're deciding to learn, an event, a sport, as I was saying, or personal growth, a certain behavior or a practice or a way to respond to a particular type of event. Well, I was really fortunate in my own experience. I was attending a personal growth experience at the Human Interaction Lab. It's called NTL Training Institute in Bethel, Maine. And here, what we were learning was a T group, which was really being able to confront the kind of challenges that we were experiencing, particularly as it related to relationships with others. And so it was during this workshop where we would sit and eventually start learning and talking about the scenario. And then we would be talking about the behaviors. And sure enough, there was a meditation and visualization aspect to this of where we would begin to prepare ourselves for these types of situations. So once again, here I was early in my growth process, really learning about some incredible tool called visualization. I also attended another very intensive workshop. So when I was in the peak of my initial period of growth, the response to the trauma and problems that I've had, the low self-esteem that I had, the anger that I was harboring, I attended what's called an inpatient care center, where it's a voluntary lock-in, where you're going to really to be able to submit yourself to a process that was going to be intensive and extensive in terms of dealing, in my particular case, with the anger I was harboring inside. And their concern was obviously it's inside at some point that's going to come outside, and it's not going to be the kind of a thing that I want to do. So let's learn now healthy approaches to be able to deal with anger so that I can avoid that kind of very disruptive approach to the anger blowing up or getting out of control. And so we went through techniques, learning techniques, the Nerf bat and other kinds of things too. Once again, was the use of the tool of visualization. Visualizing, what it was like in that moment, in that experience. How was I feeling? And I'd recreate that turmoil in my gut and how it felt, and to the point of which I was really being able to start understanding what to do and how to do that. Well, I did. And that was, again, the power of this tool. Visualization, right? Incredibly powerful today. Well, the thing is there's a video, you see here a picture of it, and it's the one that's used to actually guide sports and athletes, right? So as you go through, it's going to talk about sort of the three steps that you really want to go through up front and how to do that. Strongly encourage you to be able to view it. Of course, do your own research and learning how to do it. It's fun, but it's powerful. It really is. And it'll help you in growth because it's planting the seeds in the brain in terms of your behaviors, how you're going to respond to these scenarios, and what to do when you experience those situations. So the second scenario, meditation. Okay, we've all probably heard that. How many of you actually said put it into practice? I know I delayed it. I tried it a couple of times. Not for me, until I started to realize, you know what? It's something that's going to take practice and a commitment. And I decided to do that. And it's a process of which there's multiple methods. I'm not going to sit there and attempt to try to suggest any particular one. Google it, look it up on YouTube. There's a tons of different approaches out there. I'm a big fan of sort of keeping it, a degree of formal, which makes sense. The back is straight, the spine is straight, a type of seated position. And at times when I, for example, being a former athlete, with my legs getting tight, I often wouldn't be able to cross my legs as you would see in the traditional yoga pose. But I would sit in a chair. In fact, that's something that's also used people as they age or anybody with other back or physical problems. So make sure you consider whatever your physical problems are and look up or look for a way to be able to accommodate it and still do it. But there's a way, right? And the whole idea is to quiet the mind. And that's why this really goes so well with visualization, because the first thing you want to do is be able to quiet the mind, be able to really to let go of this rampage of thoughts that goes on in our head all day long, and that's the process for doing it. And the essence of it, is that you start with a focus typically on your breathing, and then slowly, because of that focus on it, it's distracting the brain on something other than this wave of thoughts that are going through our mind. And as we lose track and go to what our thoughts are, we just bring our focus back to our breathing. It takes time, it takes practice, but eventually it starts to click, right? I'm doing it much more effectively. And of course, we may be in more emotional times and it might be a little more difficult to do. But even in just the art of breathing helps us to sort of get through whatever scenario we're in. It brings us to a little bit more relaxed point. And that's the goal of meditation. It really is to sort of quiet the mind so that from there we can better perform a task, prepare for a meeting, visualize, do visualization work. And there's so many great aspects of it. Scientific proof and evidence is all over the place to the capability that it truly has on us. Just go to Joe Dispenza, Dispenza, and his work. Unbelievable with respect to the scientific study he has on so many different aspects of neuroscience, one of those being meditation, and the proof now that this really makes a difference. Well, this is the work that we also want to put into practice so that we begin to sort of quiet that mind. And the more we learn that, the more we can approach situations and often very quickly sort of just settle down, settle in to a little more relaxed state, because otherwise we're more prone to that reactive state. And we know if we follow our thoughts, they're going to lead us probably in those types of times into more trouble or negativity than positivity. That's again the beauty of meditation. The third element is manifestation. All of these I would absolutely love, and I will over time, spend more time on some of these topics because they're incredible. They're powerful. They'll challenge you at first, and particularly manifestation, because it's the power of positive thinking. And people, oh, yeah, I've heard that stuff before. Well, that's what I used to say too, until I started to put it to work. manifestation is based on the power of positive thinking and the law of attraction. The beauty of it is that it uses both of the techniques that we just talked about, visualization and meditation, to help us sort of quiet the mind, to be able to get some guidance and some thought and impulses or thoughts to be able to pursue. And along with that is the visualization of what we want, right? What is it that we want to be, right? That's the goal here. We have, through our personal growth activities, defined, the issues, the challenges, and now we're contrasting those with where we want to be, who we want to be. And then from there, it's going to include the new behaviors we've got to develop to be able to be that person or to pursue that goal that we now have for ourselves and to be able to achieve that full potential. Right. And again, just like Olympics, it doesn't happen overnight. 4 years of training before a single event. That's amazing, right? Well, that's similar in nature to really what we're doing. We're going to put this into practice to be able to constantly be able to develop the new kinds of behaviors and activities. So positive thinking, right? It's strongly believing that you can achieve your goals, can help you focus your energy and actions towards them, right? The key word believing. This belief can help you work toward your goals and overcome any fears and self-doubt that may hold you back, or worse, keep you from even trying. All right, so I'll be listing the links for these quotes to be able to go and read further the articles that they share and research that they have. But that's really, in effect, positive thinking. Positive thinking, for me, it's really about being able to shift this tendency for me to go negative in my thought process, hold over from my past and trauma. It's just something that I've been that way for so many years of my life. It seems to go on automatic. Well, I first of all recognize it, do a few breaths. It was the exercise we learned in last video too, about a technique that we heard about being able to really be able to use self-awareness and activities to distract ourselves when we're in that negative thought. So then from there, to transition it now to much more positive thinking. Positive thinking is what's going to get us there, right? Our thoughts really create our future. So if they're negative thoughts, obviously negative future, positive thoughts, positive future. Which one do you want? Obviously positive. So that's the thing about positive thinking, right? It's part of that manifestation by first really teaching yourself and disciplining yourself to the art of positive thinking. Along with that is the second element. It's called law of attraction. Well, this is really becoming a term in vogue and popular today because everybody really wants to get someplace different, right? And now there's some great tools been referred to in frameworks out there that people have been exposed to, and they're learning a lot about this law of attraction. And that basically states that what you focus on is what you'll attract in your life. And to my view, I mean, it's a lot very characteristic of karma, right? What comes around goes around. So if we're constantly negative in thought and thinking negative experiences, obviously those are is it any surprise we experience those kind of negative events. Opposite is true, obviously, with positive. So we want to be able to do that. So let's start attracting what we want to be, right? Here's that visualization, the meditation, all these things coming into play for us to be able to start defining who we want to be. And what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Well, there's a lot of these tools and frameworks that are available today. Right. And so one that I do, it's everything has some degree of controversy. You have to have an open mind to these types of tools or frameworks. In particular is the law of attraction with Abraham Hicks. And you can find there's thousands of videos of it on YouTube and a variety of other social media sources. And that's where two people, Esther and Jerry Hicks, explored the idea of how to have a powerful influence on your life. How is it that you can get what you want to manifest our desires? Well, it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's the kind of thing that really enforces that you manage your emotions. And remember, we talked about that before in a couple of prior episodes, is that one of the great ways to sort of understand how we're doing is to look at how we're feeling, right? Because feeling is either good, okay, or not so good or bad, right? And so obviously bad is pain and suffering. It sort of falls all under that category in there too. And we typically don't like feeling bad. So what do? We transition those thoughts, right, through these activities, through meditation, through reflection, all of these tools, right, to be able to transition that to how we feel. Well, the more positive we feel, the more positive vibration we have. And that's this concept of the law of attraction. It gets into our energy level, our vibration, which makes sense, right? We see people, and sometimes we'll even hear the expression, oh, wow, you've got good energy, right? Or wow, you're operating at a high vibration today. And we really, if you look at science, we are energy. That's the essence of who and what we are, right? All the physical stuff, if that was to dissipate, it's all made of energy, right? And so it makes sense that if we understand energy and we start to focus on being a more positive energy or a higher vibration, the happier we'll be. And so this approach that I find that's challenging is that we increase our focus and self-awareness on how we're feeling. And then once we understand the feeling and realize that it may be negative in scope, our goal is to slowly but surely work into some good positive thoughts. The challenge I had is I wanted to go from negative thought or depressing thought or whatever to an instant good thought. Ha, well, that never really happens. But if I begin to start moderating a step at a time, which is that practice of patience, then we're able to start moving this emotion to a more positive motion. Maybe it's anger at first, then it's acceptance, and maybe a little frustration. And then all of a sudden, it's okay. I'll get through this. And the next thing you know is as you begin to keep building and working on that positive side, the law of attraction starts to create a much more positive focus. The more you pay attention to that focus and more you become that focus of positivity, of feeling good, then the more it attracts positive things in our life. And hence, it's why we're manifesting our desires, right? And you see that very often in society today too, is people, hey, oh, I know, I just absolutely know that I'm gonna have this and get to, how do you know? I don't know. I just know it, and then they operate in that way, they feel that way, everything's consistent, and very often they do, right? And I've begun to test those principles and definitely starting to see the reality of it. I could love to tell you stories sometime. It would take a while to share, and they would probably be easy for anybody to write off, right, when they hear these things, first things. But, when you start doing it enough times and start realizing it for yourself, your doubt turns to more positive, right? And then that was my own way of turning more positive. Well, in any case, these tools today that we had a chance to talk to today, visualization, meditation, the law of attraction, powerful tools for you to be able to start learning about, right? They're not going to be learned overnight, but it's a kind of thing that you really can learn these things. Practice makes perfect. You've got to practice it. I feel like, I'm in grade school with respect to this law of attraction. And yet I love it. I'm intrigued with it enough so that, I'm going to keep working on this, working on these tools. My self-awareness is much more focused on how I'm feeling right now. And when I catch myself starting to feel more negative, I'm utilizing some of the tools and frameworks to attempt to transition those slowly but surely, much more positive side. And the next thing you know, I'm feeling myself, hey, you know what? I used to be days feeling angry or depressed about a particular topic. Now, you know what? I'm starting to see me transition that to hours. And now my next goal is to move from hours to minutes. And then from minutes to where I'm beginning to slow down these negative thoughts to even begin with, right? Because that's going to consume more and more focus. And I believe, and I am looking to manifest that in my life and therefore visualizing how that feels in my life. Imagine that waking up in the morning, feeling positive about the day, grateful for everything that's in my life today. I feel energized. I feel alert. I feel ready for the day. And I've got a couple tasks at my work and things today too that, you know what? I'm really fortunate to even have work today, right? And so I'm going to go there. I'm going to give it my best. I'm really going to work and connect well with the people I'm going to collaborate and work with today, and I'm going to connect with them. I'm going to do the best I can, right? It doesn't matter what's happening around me, is I can control only one thing, me. And so I'm going to feel good about what I'm doing today. And that's what's under my control, right? So what I just did is an example of sort of my inner visualization that I start off each morning with. Before I do any major step during the day, even to go grocery shopping, I'll sit back and I'll state my intention, which will include a visualization of how I want this grocery trip to go. And amazingly enough, it's starting to click. It's like, no, this is beyond just happenstance. And I'm getting past that point, right? Skeptics make the best believers. And I've been doing research my whole life. And therefore, I still need to check those things out. But with an open mind, I get there. And now I'm starting to experience them. And that's what's shaped me to where I am today, right? And that's why I love being here, because I want to tell the world about all of these amazing tools, things that you can do to achieve what you want in your life. Why not? This is your life. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael McGinnis here. I hope you enjoyed this session. Hope you bared with the raising of the soda can so at the times over here. But again, it goes to show, right? It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, we carry forward. And it's all about you making that decision to get where you want to go in life, utilizing a collective of all these tools and techniques to do it. And from there, achieving, becoming who you are, who you want to be. Again, go out and look at the Olympics. Look at what these individuals did with themselves. Watch the elation as they experience the win, right? And how they've invested all that time and effort into this. And even for those who do not, what do? They go back and invest another 4 years, the vast majority of them, to do it again. They're going to get there one way or another. I think that's awesome. It's a great testimony to human potential and what we can be. So again, come back every second and fourth Friday of the month at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern time. Come back and join us as we explore more. Thanks for joining with me, and have a fantastic day. I'm Michael McGinnis, and you've been listening to You Can Do It, Inspiring Growth, Igniting Potential. Tune in every second and fourth Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio. As a recognized educator, author, and speaker on human potential, let's learn together how to make the most out of this life and to put a ding in your universe. This is the incredible journey of personal and spiritual growth, self-discovery, and enlightenment. For more information, visit growhumanpotential.com.